So yeah, let me just pull up my account. Just give me a second. So today, what I want to do is, I just realized I was trying to put down uh, the steps that are required for you to do the project, the assignment. But what I realized is probably there are a couple of things that I meant to cover. So I thought I'll just cover that quickly today. Okay, I won't take minutes or maximum 1 hour, and I'll let you all go into your breakout rooms and continue to do the other stuff, like especially the auto scaling part. I'm going to give you an assignment on two things. One is EC2 instance profile, and where you can attach the uh, IAM role to an EC2 instance. That's quite useful. You don't need to like configure the AWS configure. So AWS configure the CLI. So that's one thing that I'm going to show today. Okay. So yeah, let me just come back. My account is ready. Let me start sharing my screen. And then what I'm going to do is I'm preparing the steps that are needed for you to complete your project over the next 2 days. So tomorrow and day after tomorrow, it is just going to be very, very light uh, on lectures, but it's going to be more on hands-on. Right? Maybe I'll spend half an hour just to walk you through, give a demo of the project. I'll do the project myself, in the classroom, and then I'll then give you the document. You can just go do that in your breakout sessions over the next 2 days. Okay, that's the plan for the next 2 days. But before that, let's quickly try to cover the couple of concepts that I was talking about. Okay, all right. So all right. So now what's happening is actually when you we looked at using a CLI and configuring a CLI, correct, in one of the sessions. So now what actually happens is when you use the CLI when you configure the CLI, any API call coming from that, like we looked at AWS S3 LS and things like that, correct? So those would go as part of your CLI and the credentials that you have done, right? So I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a quick way to do that. I'll launch an EC2 instance. First, I'm going to show you API. I'll say API instance. Okay, just we are using APIs to, right? So I'm just going to do that. Let me configure the security group. I'll just use this. Okay, on launch. Launch instances. Okay. In the meantime, let me pull up the okay. I'm just going to come. Let the instance get launched. Let me come here and connect to that. Okay. It's launching. Okay. API instance is running. I'll just grab the public IP address, come back here, put it, and connect to it. Okay, so I'll just connect to this. But now if you see, if I do AWS S3 LS, okay, so it says unable to locate credentials, right? So by default, any Amazon Linux instance that you provision will have the CLI pre-installed. Okay, all that we did to install the CLI sometime back in one of those sessions, correct? All that will be pre-installed. But what you need to do is you need to configure it. using AWS Configure, right? So where you do AWS Configure, and then you have to give an access key ID. So I'm going to do, and I'm going to create a new access key ID. Go to IAM. Go to my user, RPL admin, go to security credentials, and create a new access key. Yeah, I'll just use this for now. So this is the access key. Secret key. Yeah, and then default region is, I'll just leave it default. Okay. So once this is done, then what happens is I just close this. I don't need this anymore. I'll just close this. Then when I do AWS S3 LS, yeah, see it's able to actually show all the S3 buckets and everything, right? I mean, you can use this to use the CLI to perform all the operations, such as your EC2 operations or anything using CLI. Okay. So now what happens is actually in the background, as I said last time, there's a folder called in the root of the user. There's a folder called .aws. Okay, and then you have two files in that. One is called config and one is called credentials. Right? Config will actually have the whatever config that you give, the default region and the default output file format, or credentials will have the default credentials, the access key and secret key. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this. Okay, I don't need this. I'm just going to delete it. Okay, I'll just delete this. Save it. Okay, so now let me do AWS S3 LS. See, it says unable to locate credentials, right? You can configure. So every time, you have to actually do this, right? I mean, if you have to make use of the CLI, you have to actually go ahead and configure your AWS configure and put your access key and secret key, right? And then you'll be able to have access and whatever the access that user has got, right? I mean, in this case, what is the permissions that I've got? I've got an administrator access. So I'll be able to, within the boundaries of my administrator privileges, I'll be able to perform those actions. Okay, so that's the yeah. So that's the okay. So that's the permission set that I have. Okay. So now what you can do is there's a different way of handling this, right? So where if you see, for example, when I have um, when my credentials change, right? So when my security credentials change, because the best practice is to ensure that the keys are active and you're able to uh, you know um, rotate these keys uh, as a best practice. If you see it as a best practice, we recommend frequent key rotation, correct? So that's what, and you should never share your secret key with anyone. So now what happens is, when the key gets rotated, or when somebody deletes this key, right? For example, in this case, I'm just deleting this key, right? Okay, I'll just deactivate it. And I'm just going to delete this key. somebody goes and deletes this key also, your EC2 instance won't work, right? You won't be able to perform the action in the EC2 instance. AWS S3 LS won't be running. It will say unable to locate credentials, or it'll fail. Actually, the API call would fail because that key doesn't exist any longer. So now, in order to avoid all of this, and also tomorrow when you provision a new EC2 instance, you have to do this, AWS configure and all those EC2 instances, and assume you're running 1,000 EC2 instances and your key changes. How do you update the secret key and access key in all those 1,000 EC2 instances? That becomes quite cumbersome, and that becomes quite a tedious activity as well, right? So instead, what you do is, if you go to IAM, you can create a rule. Okay. So now when you create a rule, I'm just going to create a rule, the same rule, right? I mean, in this case, when you create a rule, you can choose which service that you want the role to be applicable with, right? I mean, which service you want the which service has to assume that role. Okay, like there are AWS services that can assume a certain role with certain privileges and call those services on your behalf. Okay, so now if I select EC2 and click on next permission, now what EC2 wants to do, right? I mean, in this case, I have an EC2 instance, right? I want my EC2 instance to use S3, or I can also give an administrator access, entire administrator access, like how I had administrator access as a user, and I was able to use my access key and secret key and perform those functions. I can give that entire administrator access to the EC2 instance. Okay, I can just give an administrator access, or I can also give a limited access, S3 full access, right? Or there are several policies that you have, or you can create your own policy also. These are all managed policies, but you can also create your own policy, right? That we saw last time. But right now, I'm just going to give administrator access. So it's exactly mimicking the permissions that I had. Okay, and then click on next review. Just say EC2 admin role. I'm just giving a name to it, and then create the role. Okay, so once that is done, if you see the EC2 admin role has been created, this is the role where if you see this is the role ARN allows EC2 instances to call AWS services on your behalf. Okay, and then if you see a trust relationship, this is basically you're trusting ec2.amazonaws.com to perform these permissions, to have these permissions. To have these permissions, and yeah, so that's what it is. So now what you got to do is, once this role is created, you go to the API instance, and then you attach that role to that instance. How do you attach? You go to actions, security, modify IAM role. Okay, click on modify IAM role and select this, and then you would actually see EC2 admin role here. Select that admin role and then click on save. Okay, it pretty much applies instantaneously, right? I mean, if you see the EC2 instance would get that role, it applies pretty much instantaneously. Okay, so now let me just refresh this. Yeah, so if you see here, it has the IAM role, EC2 admin role is attached to this EC2 instance. Now let me go back to my EC2 instance and perform the same AWS S3 LS. Yeah, see, it's working. I've not configured anything. I've not configured a CLI, or rather, I've not configured. Your CLI should be configured, but I've not configured the credentials for the CLI. Your CLI, Python, everything has to be running, but the configurations for the CLI, I've not done it. If you see here, if you see your configure credentials file, cat credentials is empty. It doesn't have any credentials. Earlier, when it was empty, it was saying unable to locate credentials, right? But now, after I created a IAM role and attached that IAM role to the EC2 instance, I'm actually able to perform the CLI functions without a credentials here, right? So this way, what happens is, even if it's the EC2 instance or the applications that you're running. So this is used in several varieties of ways, right? I mean, say assume you're using a using an application, you're building an application. That application needs to copy files to S3. It has to upload files to S3 and S3 bucket. So in that case, the S3 bucket would get would basically the EC2 instance would need to have access to that S3 bucket on your behalf, right? Because you have built that code. But it need not be dependent on one single user, right? I mean, it need not be dependent on a human user, right? Instead, you just create a role. Okay, just create a role and define the permissions for that role and provide the trust relationship to that role and do that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slightly change this. I'll delete this administrator privileges. Okay, then I'll attach a different policy out here. I'll attach only a different policy. I'll attach an EC2 policy. Okay, EC2 full access, right? It can only access EC2 service, EC2 APIs. It can't access the S3. Okay, so now let me just go and run the same command of AWS S3 LS. Yeah, if you see, an error occurred, access denied when calling the list buckets operation because it's access denied. The EC2 instance is not able to access the S3 service because it does not have access, right? So let me just go give S3 access to this. S3 full access. Or you can have read-only access and things like that. So if you want, you can review this. What does full access mean? You can click the JSON and you can see what full access mean. Okay, or you can also see the read-only access. What does read-only access have? Yeah, get star, list star. So this is what is the read-only access. Yeah, I'm just going to access. I'm going to attach the S3 full access. So now let me run the same command. Yeah, see, it works fine. Okay, so now this is one thing that I want all of you to try today, right, in your lab exercise. So you can just go and create a IAM role and provision an EC2 instance and then command attach that to the EC2 instance, attach that role to the EC2 instance and try it out. Okay, so this is one. I'm going to give you this assignment today, so you can complete this. That is one thing. The other thing that I will also reiterate today is on the auto scaling part. Okay, so now let me go to the auto scaling group. Yesterday I was telling you that somebody was trying to kind of point in my screen. Can you just remove it? It's distracting. Yeah, somebody was trying to annotate. Can you remove this, please? How do I remove that?
Once you stop the screening and then allow.
Yeah, no, I've removed it. Clear
Okay.
all drawings. Yeah, please don't annotate on my screen for now. Okay. All right. So you have auto scaling groups, right? So this is the auto scaling group. So let me just go to the auto scaling group that we created yesterday. And I'll just show you the activity that happened. So if you see the activity that got happened was, yeah. So if you see 4 instances were provisioned yesterday, right? Till this point. I think we were there till this point, 1042. Okay. Capacity, increasing capacity from 3 to 4. So then the shrinking started. After in about 15 minutes, the shrinking started. Where 3. If you see, it shrunk the capacity from 4 to 3 at 11 o'clock. After about 5 minutes, it shrunk the capacity from 3 to 2 at 11:04. Okay, after about 1 minute, it shrunk the capacity from 2 to 1. 4 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 1. And if you see it right now, there's only one EC2 instance which is running. I mean, my ASG. Yeah, if you see, there's only one EC2 instance which is running, right? So that's the way your auto scaling groups work. Okay, so I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to give you an assignment for these two today, right? You can go to your breakout rooms and perform these two. Okay, one is EC2 instance IAM rules and auto scaling. So do these two assignments, okay, which these two are very important for completing the project for the next 2 days. Okay, so I'm going to give you this EC2 instance IAM rules. Yeah, that's called an instance profile actually. Okay. Okay, that's one. And auto scaling. Yeah, this auto scaling thing. Just give you this link. I'll also give you the assignment for today. Create an IAM rule as follows. Name EC2 rule. Just call it EC2 rule. Yeah, select EC2. That's the first step. Okay, first step is select EC2 and the choose a use case. Select an AWS service. AWS service and EC2. Yeah, click next permissions. Here, type administrator or whatever access that you want, right? I mean, you can go with administrator access or S3 full access. Okay, S3 full access. Select S3 full access. As the permissions, as the policy, not permission, sorry. As the policy attached. Click next. Review. Give a name as EC2 role and then create role. Go and create the role. I'm not going to create this. Then click on create role. Okay. Next is provision and EC2 instance. Log into the EC2 instance using PuTTY or SSH. Yeah, once you've logged in, perform any CLI operations such as the following: AWS S3 LS. Okay, you should not be getting results. Okay. Next is navigate to the EC2 console. Okay. Navigate to the EC2 management console. Go to instances. Select the provisioned. Select the provisioned EC2 instance. Select actions, security, modify IAM. Select actions, security, modify IAM role. Select here. Select the EC2 role from the drop down and click on save. Okay, that's once that is done. Go back to go back to the EC2 shell and perform the CLI operations. You should be able to successfully perform the CLI operations. Okay, and also what you can do is you can try out few things. I mean, using that, right? I mean, you can you create some files there, right? And what you can do is you can just go create an S3 bucket. Just go create an S3 bucket, because this step is also important for completing the project. So what you can do is you can just go to buckets, just create a new bucket. I'm just going to create a bucket RPL AWS bucket RPL AWS November 25th. Just create the bucket. Don't worry about anything. Just create the bucket. Okay. Or you can also do the same thing from the CLI also. Just delete this bucket. I'm just going to delete this RPL AWS November 25. Okay. You can do it through CLI. How do you do it? AWS S3. What is the command? S3 create bucket CLI. Let me refer to that. Yeah, AWS S3 API. Yeah, just copy this whole thing. Just come here. I'm going to paste it here. Okay, I'm just going to give the bucket name as my RPL bucket. Number 25. Region is AP South. Yeah. the south one, bucket name is my RPL bucket number 25. Yeah, it's created. So it created this my RPL bucket number 25. Okay. So now, for example, you've created some files, right? I'm going to my home directory. Okay. So now mkdir some folder one, right? cd folder one, right? I'm actually making some files. Okay. I'll say echo file one greater than file one dot txt. Similarly, file two, just not going to say anything. Just say file two, file two, file three, file four. Okay. So you have 4 files here, but I want to actually upload all these files to S3, correct? Okay. So you can use the CLI to do that. Okay. So there's a command called sync. Okay. Just show you. It's called AWS S3 sync. Okay. This is the command. Yeah. So AWS S3 sync dot means it moves all the files, right? Okay. I can do this and S3 colon slash slash my bucket can do that. So now clear this. I'll just say ls-l. I'll say AWS S3 sync star.txt to S3 colon slash slash. What was the bucket name? Let me just grab the bucket name. My RPL bucket. Yeah, so this one, my RPL bucket number 25. If you see, it doesn't have any objects here, right? Now I'm going to upload all those objects from my CLI, right? It's a sync. What it does is it syncs all these files to S3. Okay, say dot. Yeah, so it basically uploaded all these 4 files to S3 bucket. Right? Using this command AWS S3 sync dot S3 colon slash slash. The star.txt won't work. So there's a different way to do that. I mean, you have to give a content type if you want to selectively sync files to S3. So now if you say refresh, yeah, you will see all these 4 files present here. Okay. Similarly, what you can do is you can also do one thing, right? So where I'm just going one folder behind, right? You can say it is S3 sync hyphen delete. Okay, folder one. Okay, you can do it in a recursive fashion. Iterative fashion, right? So that it recursively it syncs the entire all the folders, files, everything into that. Okay. Just seeing what is the command for that. Yeah, hyphen recursive. Yeah, okay. So that's the command. Folder one to S3 my RPL bucket slash November 25. recursive. Okay. So now what this command does is it first deletes everything that is there in the S3. Okay. Then it uh, copies the entire folder contents into this in a recursive fashion. Let's do that. Oh, sorry, recursive spelling is wrong. Okay. Let me just look up the actual syntax of it. AWS X3 sync -- recursive. Okay, so probably recursive has to be in the beginning itself. Okay, yeah, all the options have to be in the beginning, not in the end. Okay, -- delete -- recursive. Folder one Thomas. AWS S3 sync. Okay. Let me.
अकेले अकेले डाउनलोड करके देखे जा रहे हैं ऑफ ऑनलाइन चल रहा है बिग बॉस है
Yeah, can you please go on mute?
वो अनम्यूट कैसे होता है
Okay, recursive is for copying. Okay, okay. No recursive. No recursive. This is there for recursive also. Wait 1 second. Let me check. Okay, so it's basically a copy, AWS S3 copy in a recursive fashion. Okay, so you can use this AWS S3 CP, AWS S3 CP source destination. Source here is folder one, destination is S3 / my RPL bucket -November 25 -- recursive delete. Delete doesn't work here. Yes, just a recursive. Yeah, so it actually moves it to copies the entire folder there. Okay, in a recursive fashion. So the whole folder gets copied over there. You can use either sync or you can use CP. Okay, so I'm going to give you these commands for tomorrow. Okay, but what you can do is you can just go ahead and do this. Let me just give you. Either you can use perform the following commands also. AWS S3 sync dot S3 / bucket name. Your bucket name. Or AWS S3 CP folder one. This is the name of the folder. S3 / bucket name -- recursive. Okay. Try these options also today. Okay. EC2 auto scaling, you don't have to do any hands-on today because you're going to do it tomorrow. So I want you to preserve the credits for tomorrow, for the next 2 days, right? So you have to keep the credits intact because you'll be provisioning 3 to 4 EC2 instances and keep it running for about 2 to 3 hours, correct? Until you troubleshoot and you get it right. So I don't want you to waste the credits today. Yeah, keep the credits, keep the free tier credits, right? So we will do it for the lab over the next couple of days. Okay, but today I just want you to do this and get comfortable with creating an IAM role, attach a permission or a policy to an IAM role, and attach that IAM role to an EC2 instance, do CLI operations, and then get comfortable with it because we're going to do this tomorrow. Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm going to just deprovision that instance, terminate that instance, terminate it. I'm also going to go ahead and clean up my autoscaling group completely. I don't need autoscaling group now. I'll just delete it. Okay, it's gone. Yeah, go away. Just go to my EC2 instance. Yeah, my ASG. I'm just going to delete this, which was created yesterday. Okay, so I've just cleaned up everything. So I'll just leave it like this. I'll leave it like this. I'll go back. EC2 instance was gone. I'm going to give you this assignment. So please go to your breakout rooms and do this assignment for today. And tomorrow morning, we're going to start our project. Okay, for the 2 days, Thursday and Friday, we're going to do project where I'm going to give you a document, a project guide, right? And then you're going to use that project, use that guide to complete your project. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Today's 25th. Okay, yeah, I've given you the assignment. I've pasted the assignment document to the chat. So please go ahead and get started with this and complete this in your breakout rooms. And as I said, tomorrow, next 2 days is going to be fun. We're going to do a lot of hands-on. We're going to do that full-fledged project, which covers pretty much a lot of things that we have learned so far, like EC2, IAM, S3, RDS, auto scaling. Okay, yeah, and so many things you're going to learn. CloudWatch. Okay, so these are things that you're going to learn. I mean, do a hands-on, and I'm going to give you a proper guide, which you can just follow and which you can just use to go step by step, right, and understand the intent of the project. Okay, I'm going to spend half an hour, 40 minutes tomorrow just to walk you through and do the project myself. I'll complete it in about 40 minutes, but you can do it over the next 2 days. You can do it in a slow pace. You can do it over the next 2 days. Okay, for example, if you're not able to complete it in one day, those who can complete it, those who could complete it in one day, that's okay. You can again repeat the same thing on Friday also. That way it will be a good exercise, and that way it will be a good a revision for you. But those who are not able to complete it in one day, I would suggest you try and complete it in one day, right? And ensure that you don't take it to the next day. And again, Friday, again, you can repeat the same exercise, or certain aspects which you are stuck. Maybe we can look at it on Friday, but I want all of you to complete the project on Thursday and Friday maximum. Okay, so that we kind of complete the first project, and the second project will be next week. Next week, I'm going to teach you about serverless architecture, Lambda functions, DynamoDB, API gateway and things like that. So they're also going to be quite interesting. And again, you will do a project on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on the serverless architecture. Okay.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah.
Sir, while creating IAM role users, we can restrict the users to only one particular region, like creating instances or using the resources.
Yeah, you can restrict it to a specific resource. While you create that IAM role, you can give a resource section, and then you can restrict it only to that bucket. You don't have to give it to all the buckets. I just took S3 admin, but you can be more restrictive. It's like just a policy that you're writing in IAM, like any other policy. If you want to restrict XYZ user to access only a few S3 buckets, you would restrict it, right? Similarly, here also in IAM also you can restrict it that way. It's very similar to IAM user only, but in this case, no user is using this role, but rather a system is actually using this role, is assuming this role on your behalf.
Sure, sir.
Okay. Okay. Try all those out. It's going to be interesting. You can read it and try as many permutations, combinations possible. Try that. In this case, you brought up a good point, right? I mean, just restrict it only to that particular bucket. Don't give access to any other bucket. Restrict it only to that bucket and see how it works. Okay, all right. Then it's good. So let's kind of break out to the breakout rooms, and I'll see you all tomorrow. And ensure that you all join the sessions tomorrow, and then complete the project, because that's going to be fun. Okay, I'm going to give you a complete documentation around the project in tomorrow's session. Okay, all right. Thanks all. Thanks, and Sairam. Sai Krishna, Sairam, it is over to you. Breakout rooms can be opened and students can go there.
No, I'm not sure. Not give me about less than a minute. I'll open the breakout rooms.
Sure. Okay.
Thanks, Anna.
And some of you have some permission issues with CloudTrail and things like that, right? Yeah, I mean, don't worry about it. It's okay. I mean, essential services, if you have access to and if you're completely CloudTrail, I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, it's just that I'm kind of unable to, give full access to everybody, okay, on these restricted accounts. But yeah, don't worry about it. You can play the video, and that's going to be quite simple.
828.
But for tomorrow's project, sorry, Sai Krishna. But for tomorrow's project, I'll ensure that those who are using our accounts are having access to all those services. Okay, I'll ensure that. Don't worry about it.
Sure. Now, 828. Does your issue resolved, or do you still have a problem with it?
Yes, sir, I'm done.
Okay. Z092, how about you?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, sir. We connected yesterday with Prasanna, sir.
Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. I'm just confirming. And yeah, please do accept the invitation to join the breakout rooms. Thank you, Anna. I think we are good. And we'll see you tomorrow now.
Sure. I'll see you all tomorrow. Okay. And tomorrow, this couple of days is going to be fun. So please ensure that there's full